Welcome. For Sexual Freedom for Women, Season 2. Release your inhibitions, deeply connect, and unleash your sexual pleasure. Today, I am interviewing Christiane KoSoul, a beautiful and lovely Tantra teacher who is here to share all of her expertise. Christiane, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure and honor to be part of this amazing journey.
Oh, I'm so grateful. So for our audience, I'm going to share a little bit about Christiane, and then we're going to jump into the amazing topic of female genital anatomy. So there is so much to talk about here. So Christiane is an international Tantra teacher, body worker, mentor, and modern day priestess who facilitates workshops and retreats on topics of femininity and sacred sexuality. Her deepest calling is to balance the relationship between the feminine and the masculine in the world. So Christiane, first off, how did you get into this work? How did this become your passion and your calling in life?
I guess I got into this work because I was so far away and so much disconnected from all of that. So I was really disconnected for who I really am as a human being, but especially also as a woman. And I was very disconnected from my female body, where I feel like we as women need to be in our body. So I was so disconnected from that. I lived a life where from the outside I had like almost everything someone is desiring for. I had like a good job, a beautiful relationship. I had like friends and family and a life and enough money. But something deep inside of me was so sad, was so desperate and so dry that I was constantly looking on the outside to kind of fulfill a lack inside of me. So I was always going outside and like trying to fulfill that lack with so many different things, where I think like many women can relate to, like food disorders, trying to control life, or just the abuse of alcohol and drugs, and constantly overworking myself to kind of get some validation, some kind of love from that way. And I did that for a long time in my life, beginning from my teenagers. And I was 28 and I was burning out and deeply depressed. So basically life forced me to find a different way of being. And apart from exploring yoga and meditation, what was a huge part and a huge step of my first healing journey and awakening journey, it was really, really clear after a while that the part that was missing was the feminine part, was the part that is able to soften, that is able to receive, that is filled with love from the inside. And I could really, really see very fast how this is connected to also my feminine body and how I relate to my feminine body in general, but especially also relating to the sexual part of my being. So Tantra came across and was kind of filling that puzzle I was looking for so long, to help me to connect deeper and embrace my feminine body and also my feminine sexuality in a much bigger way. And basically it was part of my own healing journey, huge part of my healing journey that I'm now super passionate and sharing with women.
Beautiful, beautiful. Not unlike a lot of stories of women being, you know, like you said, dry, just feeling that void and not really understanding how to fill it. So so lovely that you found that through your sexuality. So on our topic today is really about the Yoni, right? And female genital anatomy. So I would love for you to give us a little bit of a lesson around the Yoni, the sacred space. And for our listeners that maybe haven't even explored themselves that much.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to do that. So In Tantra, there's this Sanskrit term that is called that is called Yoni, what relates to our feminine genitals, to our vagina, and that means sacred space. So, and it not only relates to all part of the vagina. So when I'm speaking about the vagina or the yoni, I mean like all the parts of the outside, and we're going to come to this a bit more, the inside, but also the area of our uterus, of our womb. So, and it's really that part of our being that is basically the source of all life. I mean, we're all coming from a vagina. I mean, this is pretty amazing, and we sometimes forget about it, about this profound space where the spirit enters matter and where just new life is created. And it's on an energetic, this is on a physical level, but on an energetic level, it's more that is the part also, especially for us women, this is our power center. So this is our creative center. So from there we create not only babies, but we create like everything we are creating in life. So what I see that it's a lot happening is this kind of like disconnect that is there. So because there's a lot of shame that we're carrying like collectively, but also just individually. And this is really, really huge, because basically shame comes from, we are ashamed of who we truly are. So we are basically totally disconnected and out of our power if we're not coming to a place of honoring and loving this sacred space within our own bodies. And
so this idea of shame, like this reality of shame that every single woman that I have ever worked with, every friend that I have had dear to me, every female family member, we all hold it. It's like, it's ancestrally passed down. Like, even if you have not experienced something like directly, we've all heard like, oh, you know, the vagina smells like tuna, or like just some insidious like comment. We've all taken it in. You know, how do you offer an opening? You know, what do you say to a woman who's experiencing a lot of shame and she doesn't even like want to explore her body? I mean, in your world, you're running retreats and workshops where people are coming to you. There might be people listening to this right now who aren't there yet. You know, they're not even willing to look at it. Like, how would you give them an opening to just begin to soften and let go of that shame?
So for me, the softening and the healing of shame, it comes through love and through honor. So, and this can be like very tiny moments and practices of just getting into the body, bringing awareness there by just placing a hand on your yoni and simply begin to soften and bring breath into that space. And just really taking your time and going slow. There's, I think, a huge part of it is really that honoring, like finding like our needs and our boundaries, and just really, when it comes to the yoni, not crossing them, you know, just finding that space of, okay, where's my yes and where's my no? So really softening and exploring and seeing what emotions is coming up. Because usually their emotions are coming up as soon as we enter that place, that sacred place, with awareness and love. So really just feeling it by bringing a gentle touch, a gentle hand, and some breath, and just some sounds, some movements, and just feeling that space. I think it's a very beautiful first step to connect back, and just increasing the time, you know, starting with 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just see there's a lot of healing actually happening already there by just this simple practice.
Just being in the intention of it. Absolutely. And actually just being present, holding space, taking the action to reconnect. Absolutely.
Totally. Yeah, the presence is a huge part. Yeah, it's beautiful that you said that. It's really that presence, what I'm experiencing a lot in my own healing work, but also in the work of working with women. There's so much that can be just acknowledged and healed and brought to the light through presence.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I felt like was lacking in my own sex life. And I put it on my partner, right? That he wasn't present enough. He needed to bring the presence. And really, it was both of us shifting. But for so long, I didn't realize how much of it could be sourced through my own willingness to be totally present, because we create that dynamic, right? We're setting the tone. So if I become grounded and rooted and present in the moment, intentional, it also invites him to do the same. So that's so beautiful. And I want to get deeper into this topic of, you had some smoke from your incense.
Yeah, I was just like some smoke from my incense coming over, so I placed it a little bit to the side.
I love it. So I really want to talk about the anatomy more. Talk about like the female genital anatomy. So let's get a little lesson.
Yes. So what you just shared before is actually really, really beautiful, because that's what I also experienced myself. You know, I was like, oh, my partner should do that, or, you know, it's not only me, it's like also him. And that's what I feel a lot in women, that we're like starting on that journey and then immediately we want to bring someone else in. But actually the first part, what I feel is like super, super important, that we are getting comfortable and just really loving and honoring with our own self. So a beautiful way and a beautiful tantric practice that I recommend for every woman, and also to explore the female genital anatomy deeper, is Yoni gazing. So, and the way you can do that is very simply by placing a mirror in front of your vagina and just beginning to look at her with a sense of love, of wonder, of curiosity, and of non-judgment. And there will judgments coming up, and there will emotions coming up. But that's a beautiful way to just start from the outside, start from the vulva, what is the outside and the visible part of the yoni, and just really seeing her beauty and seeing her for what she truly is. So that gateway to the divine, that gateway to the goddess. It's a beautiful way to just start. And usually what I like, what I ask women to do or invite them to do is to just really explore that whole area of the pubic bone, the pubic hair, just really slowing, going down to the outer lips. And that's also the way we kind of, feel like it's very, very important to address, because there's this huge lack of education how to approach a yoni actually. So, and the yoni, she likes to be approached really from the outside to the inside. So really starting from the outside and really exploring all those different tissues, and really simply, instead of like stimulating, just simply touching and simply exploring the outer labia, the inner labia. Make sure they have like lots of oil to explore all those different parts, and just really feel how that feels. And then slowly really moving from the outside slowly to the inside, to the clitoris. What is this unpleasurable part of this incredible part of our feminine body that just has like 8,000 nerve endings. It's like double at that of a penis, that is just basically only there for pleasure. And really also approaching the clitoris from the outside to the inside. And there's not only this little tip of the clitoris we usually know. There are also the legs of the clitoris that go all the way down into the labia. Do you have some there? Oh, they are so, yes, exactly. That's so beautiful, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not only the tip and the pleasure. It's also the legs that are going inside of the labia, and just really when they are stimulated in a pleasurable and in a slow way. And usually, like generally speaking, we as women, we need more time than men to kind of get all of our juices flowing. She's like really it's like the penis. It starts to it gets like thicker. It starts to just like grow and become like really puffy and thick, and just like it's very, very, very responsive. exactly.
The vestibular bulbs, right? The vestibular bulbs that are right next to the introitus, and they get engorged like the penis.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really this beautiful part to explore from the outside. And then of course there's the urethra entrance and the entrance of the vagina that can be really beautiful explored just by, you know, just having the finger at the entrance and just like don't doing anything, just breathing, just deeply breathing and bringing all the awareness, because that's usually the entrance of the vagina, is that part where there a lot of emotions can be stored. Like it's usually that part that really represents our boundaries. So it's often where women really in my work feel like, oh, okay, that's where I have been crossing my boundaries a lot. That's where I actually didn't really took care of myself. That's where I'm actually learning now what my needs are, not only in sexuality, but also just generally in life. Yeah.
And that makes me think of something that you mentioned just a moment ago, which is something so big for me and my process and the work I do is really about claiming your no. You know, the difference between the no and the yes. And when you slow down and you allow for that time and that intention right at the introitus, your body can tell you, you can begin to listen to your body. Is there a no there, or a yes there, or a maybe?
Yeah, exactly. And also totally celebrating that no, and you know, maybe just stopping when it's a maybe, because then we're quite unsure. Maybe we need something. Maybe we need a bit more of, you know, just touch or massage from the outside. And I mean, a huge part before we're actually doing this kind of exploration in our yoni is also really including our breasts. That's really, really important for women to really including them in that part of like exploration or self-pleasuring, or however you want to call that. It's really this, and especially at the entrance there, it's a good question before you actually enter and explore a bit more in deeper inside, to really ask if your yoni is ready. Because if you connect more, it's like really this amazing inner guidance of yourself you have, because she's actually talking to you, and the voice becomes more and more clear. And this is usually very, very accessible for women in any time, because when we start to listen to this voice becomes louder. So before we're actually going inside, really asking that question and waiting what she says. Yes.
Which is, I'm just thinking, like, as you're talking about like this is the solution to the sex life that has become boring, and you know, it's the same every single time, because that's typically coming from a place of just like, we're going from here to here to here to here, and we're not actually listening, because we're different every single day. So if you're stopping, just the practice of stopping and listening to what your body really wants, and having the courage and willingness to communicate that in the moment, that in and of itself is going to break that boring cycle of sex, because it's different every day.
Totally. Yeah, that's exactly as you say. That's how I see it, and I feel it. It's really that kind of like slowing down, and also moving in that kind of not linear way that we usually have, right? We're going like from, okay, we do this and this and this and that guides to this and this and that, right? And more than like really flowing and finding a more feminine way of like going forward, going back, slowing down, stopping, breathing. And they're like just beautiful new sensations and a deeper, way much deeper fulfillment that we actually bring into ourselves, into our sex life, but also just generally into our lives. Yeah.
So beautiful. Absolutely. It's like such the key, you know, when people talk about self-care, doing yoga, or like starting a meditation practice, like this in and of itself is all of those things, right? It's this ability to really slow down and care for yourself, and start like a new practice of self-love and honoring and listening and being connected to your intuition as a woman, as a being.
Yeah, totally. And it is really this kind of bringing meditation bringing meditation into our sexuality, bringing our meditation into that part of our lives from where we all come from where all life is created. And this is, I think, so beautiful, and this is like, I feel really strongly what this world needs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you tie it back to meditation, it made me think of something that you said earlier when you brought up the Yoni gazing practice, and you said judgments will come up, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like the whole thing about meditation, right? It's that you're not going to be in this perfect space where your mind is never thinking, right? It's that you acknowledge it and you return to your practice. And so that's exactly what this is. I mean, if you're getting stuck in your head, or if you're thinking your partner's not doing something right, or you're feeling, you know, bad about your body, it's that you can just acknowledge that. You can just acknowledge that and breathe, and then focus back in on breathing into your body, into your yoni, and coming back to the present, like a meditation, just like you said.
Totally. Yeah, it's really about, rather than pushing that part of our bodies away and pushing our emotions away, because emotions are very, very potent, and come even more and more in my work, but also my personal life, just to that point of, it's really about what kind of, you know, gives us the ability to feel. And there are many of us like kind of like scared to feel, because it's not really something we've been encouraged. So what usually happens once we're stopping ourselves from feeling, and I mean, like, my story is just like a beautiful story for many of us, that kind of like numbs our sensations of feeling and our ability to feeling down. But then what we also are cutting off from is this huge part of pleasure that we actually are able to feel, and that every woman has the capacity to feel, even if she doesn't experiencing that yet. And I mean, there are many women who are experiencing pain, or I mean, like, just like shame, but also just like really like a physical manifestation, like pain during intercourse, or just like a physical health issues around the yoni, where this is actually not that, this is like can all be changed. This can all be like acknowledged through feeling, and to allowing the feelings that are behind this pain or this not feeling to feel. And then we're going to come into that part where we're actually allowing ourselves to feel pleasure as well.
So if a woman is having a lot of emotions come up during sex and she's used to pushing them down, what do you suggest?
So I suggest you let them come out. So this is really, really important, because usually we have this kind of image of what sexual intercourse should look like, and usually we're having our education from porn or something, and this is like kind of this very artificial way of sex. So instead of like really making love where all those parts, including the emotions, are there, I really recommend her to begin to find a way and to access those emotions by herself. Because this is very, very important, because I was really afraid of my own emotions for most of my life. I was really, really scared to let them come, and I was really, really also very disconnected from my pleasure and orgasm. So it was really important for me to explore that by myself before including the partner, because also for men, I feel like we kind of need to include them. But first of all, it's almost like we become an initiatress. We become an initiatress, right? Like, so we're starting with ourselves and feeling that there are those parts in our body that actually is able to hold that emotion. And because we're usually afraid that it's going to stay, it's not going to away, it's going to overwhelm us, it's overwhelming for others, we're too much, we're like getting so vulnerable, we are like can get attacked. And I mean, this all happens, and this is all true. But once we discover that with ourselves, we can actually bring that into our lovemaking with our partner and share with them, because it can be intimidating for men as well, because they also don't know, to kind of suddenly feel a woman like you know, in their deepest pleasure, under tears, during deepest orgasm, into tears, but it's so close and it's so much related.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an opening, it's a releasing, as our life force energy gets really vibrant and alive in our body. So it's so beautiful.
And it's like connected to our ability to feel overall. I mean, if you're on this, you know, if you're listening to this interview, it's because you want to unleash your sexual pleasure. But the truth is that there is no light without the dark. They don't exist without each other. And so as much as you are resisting feeling all of those feelings that feel scary and dark and unknown, and you're resisting them and pushing them down, it's the same with your pleasure. So at the ability that you're able to unleash all of your experience of feeling, whether it's the height of pleasure or the depths or heights of grief and sadness, that it's the full range, and we have to let that all out in order to be able to have that ecstatic pleasure in our life.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, you're so awesome, Jan. This has been so lovely. So what is the gift that you have for our audience today?
I have a beautiful gift that is my ebook. It's called Sacred Blood, The Wisdom and Healing Power of Menstruation. And in this book, I share a lot about our feminine cycle, feminine anatomy related to our womb, to our uterus, the different phases, and how we can actually use those phases in order to balance our feminine life, to kind of find more flow and more acceptance for who we truly are as women. And it's a beautiful way to connect to your female genitals, because it brings awareness there, and it brings a sense of becoming more whole as a woman. So it has a lot of tips around the female cycle, and I share a lot of things that you can do when they're experiencing PMS or pain or any kind of those sensations. And
it's lovely. I just, in listening to you talk a little bit about it, it just made me think of the beginning of the interview when you said that, like, you know, our reproductive organs and our womb and our yoni is really like, it's the gate, right? It's the seat of who we are. And really what you're talking about here in this book is that, like, we are really ruled by this place. And the more that we open and learn and know about the sacred flow, the more that we come into alignment as women.
Yeah, absolutely. Because usually, especially if we're taking, that's why I call it sacred blood, because when we're talking about the blood, it's usually something we kind of like wanted to push down. We don't want to feel, it's like uncomfortable. It's like, you know, but if we really embrace it, it changes so much on how we feel as women in our bodies. And it's such a beautiful way and small cycle in between all of those cycles of our feminine lives that is happening like every month in our bodies. It's so amazing, and really starting to really honor that. And now we're coming back to that shame, that there's so much shame around it. Even talking about brings up so much shame. When I talk about it like publicly, some people were like, "Oh, what is she doing?" So everyone's like, "Oh," and like even people who work in the field of, like, you know, hospitals, who actually have a lot of experience with blood. So it's really bringing the sacredness into our body, and just also taking time to slow down.
Yes. And like, it's just the reclaiming of the truth. You know, it's not taboo. It's natural. It's our body. Sex is not taboo. Your yoni is not taboo. Your blood is not taboo. It's all sacred. It's all like the truth of your human existence.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really it's really for me, and what I see a lot with women I work with, it's life changing once we start to really reclaim and embrace that part of us.
Oh, so beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. And everyone who is listening, if you are ready to really reclaim your feminine way, then click on the link below and get access to Christiane's ebook.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to be here and to share with you and to talk and bring that all to the women who are hungry and wanting to kind of open to just receive all of that. It feels so good.
So good. So that's it. If you are hungry and you're ready to receive, then keep listening and go and click on Christiane's book and start your journey. So I'm sending you so much love. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.